Good afternoon, and you're very welcome back to Around the Grounds here at Finalwhistle.ie. A different Around the Grounds than usual. We will have two shows coming to you today. Later on this evening, we will have action from the Women's National League coming to you. But now the action is of a rugby variety. Different AIL games taking place across the country today. Playoff finals and, of course, finals to see who can get promoted as well. We will start with the game between Galwegians and Ballina. Watching for us was Cueva Hart.
Hello. Wegians are staying up. The score today was 15-3 to Ballina. It was a very tough game. A lot of Wegians penalties, and thankfully we managed to stay up. So we're going to stay in 2B for this year anyway. And that's me. This is the Grants.
Perfect, Cueva. Thank you, of course, for that report. A big result for Galwegians. They managed to stay up for another season, will not face the threat of relegation. Next up, we will cross live to Olin, who will bring you another report from today's action.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Ballymacran Park, where Ballynahinch have retained their Division 1A status in a scintillating game against UCC. Ballynahinch held a 4-point lead going into this game from the first leg, and it looked like they were going to run away comfortably with a pair of early tries. And they were particularly inspired by the comeback of their second row powerhouse, Cameron Izzy, who was immense throughout. In fairness, though, UCC managed to get a stranglehold into the game, and two quick tries for them by Andrew O'Mahony and also by the second row Mark Bissessar saw them level go into the lead on the day as Daniel Squires converted both to leave the scores at 14-12. Josh Hanlon responded late on with a try for Ballynahinch after a crossfield kick, and then the halftime scores were levelled when Daniel Squires kicked a penalty at the death of the half. So Ballynahinch retained their 4 points advantage going into the second half, but things were still very nip and tuck. In the second half, with a steady, if not major wind behind them, Ballynahinch went to their power up front, winning a series of scrum penalties and disrupting several UCC lineouts that saw them establish a foothold in the game. And eventually, in the final 20 minutes, they pulled away. Conor Rankin got his second try, and Greg Cutley wrapped up the game late on. And as the rain hammers down at a wet Ballymacran Park, it isn't much bother to the home fans as they celebrate retaining their Division 1A status.
Perfect, Olin. Thank you for that report. Then we'll move to 2A, where the 2A final between Queen's University and Buccaneers took place as well this afternoon. Queens have been by far the powerhouse in that division, looking to get promoted, taking on the Buccaneer outfit at their own ground in Dub Lane. Watching for us was Paul McIntyre.
Hi, and you're very welcome to the Dub here, where a large crowd saw a gripping 2A final, seeing Buccaneers being crowned 2A champions on a scoreline of 18 points to 17, shocking pre-match favourites Queens with a fairly deserved victory. And the game in the mixing pot, just right down to the final seconds of the game. Buccaneers leading by 6 points, but the host came roaring back, but James McMaster's conversion of the last kick of the game came back off the post. He sparked wild scenes of celebrations and jubilations and a chorus or two of the Fields of Athenry in the stand. Buccaneers fairly deserved their victory, built on a strong defence, where their pack was superb from the first minute. Queens took the game to the visitors from the start, but the Buccaneers' defence frustrated the hosts, and Buccaneers were able to soak up the pressure and then take the lead through a Michael Hanley penalty. But Queens came roaring back, and eventually the pressure paid off when Graham Curtis darted down the left wing to touch down in the corner for a great finish. But Michael Hanley replied again for the Bucks to give them a slender lead at half time, 6-5, with a second penalty. Queens came out of the blocks flying in the second half, and they took the lead on just 10 minutes of the second half when Sanderson, their loose-head prop, got over for a try, which Richie McMaster converted, and Queens are looking good at 12-6. But showing all their defensive capabilities, the Buccaneers showed they could also attack, and they put the hosts under immense pressure. Their pack grew in confidence, which yielded a number of penalties, and Queens lost a player to a yellow card, and the Buccaneers took full advantage and were awarded a penalty try, which put them into a 1-point lead before Buccaneers number 5, Murray, crossed the line a few minutes later, and Buccaneers were looking good for an 18-12 lead. But back came Queens, and a try with the last play of the game from Charlie Irvine set up that nervous finish, which saw the conversion come back off the post, and Buccaneers deservedly go up. Again, on the scoreline here to Dub, Queen's University 17, Buccaneers 18.
Perfect, Paul. Thank you for that report. When he mentions their Bucks are going up to 1B, of course, the 1B final also took place today between Shannon and Naas. Which of the two teams would make it into the top division? Watching the game on Shannon's side was Tom Clancy.
Good afternoon, Diarmuid. Yes, it's the Limerick side, Shannon, who will be taking their place back in Division 1A following a 30 points to 15 victory over Naas here in Coonagh. Played in very good conditions. There was a boisterous home crowd here, with the Limerick side gaining home advantage, of course, having finished third with Naas beneath them in the table in fourth. But both these sides had been high scoring in contests last season, but this game didn't really transpire that way for long periods, as defences were well and truly on top. The opening score of the game came on 14 minutes when David Maher crossed for Shannon's first try. Jake Flannery added the extras, and from then on Shannon never really looked back. Jake Flannery added a penalty on the half-hour mark, and a couple of minutes later he intercepted the ball on the halfway line, ran all the way beneath the sticks to make it 15, and he added the extras, of course, for 17-0 before Peter Osborne gave Naas a little bit of hope with a very well taken penalty just before the interval. But Fionn Higgins' try brought this game back to life early in the second half. 48 minutes on the clock when that was dotted down. The conversion was wayward, and from then on it was all Shannon. Peter Flannery added another penalty before winger Josh Costello more or less sealed the contest inside the last 10 minutes when he just about got over in the corner to make it 30 points to 8. And despite a late try for Naas, they were well and truly beaten here this afternoon. So a full-time scoreline of 30 points to 15. I've just spoken with the management and captain of Shannon following a loud and vocal singing of their famous song, There Is an Isle Here in Coonagh. It was really spine-tingling stuff. And both manager Pat O'Connor and their captain were absolutely thrilled to get back into Division 1A. Of course, Shannon, I suppose, one of the most famed clubs out of Limerick and indeed Munster, certainly in AIL terms, and have produced many a fine player. And I suppose the player of the day was a man who Munster perhaps underutilised, if you were a Shannon person, is that Jake Flannery. The out half was absolutely phenomenal for the 80 minutes, kicking under pressure, kicking off the tee, and really just dictating things here for Shannon. So they're back amongst 1A. Disappointment for Naas, but a thrilling season for them, because you must remember they were well and truly down the table in the season that was called a halt to pre-COVID. They were looking to avoid relegation, really, but to come within 80 minutes of promotion is most certainly progress for the Kildare men. So, as I said already, it's a full-time scoreline here of Shannon 30, Naas 15.
Perfect, Tom. Thank you for that report. Of course, Shannon now take their place back in Division 1A, but who could take their place in Division 2A as the final between Greystones and Blackrock took place also this afternoon? Watching for us was the rugby show presenter, Luke Delaney. Don't think we can hear Luke there. I don't think his audio is actually coming through. Can you hear me, Luke? I think we're having a little bit of technical issues there trying to get through to Luke. We'll try and cross back to him in a couple of minutes' time and try and get you the report coming, of course, from that game between Greystones and Blackrock in the Division 2B final. Now, we'll also have action from the Division 2C final, where Enniscorthy took on Skerries at Alcast Park. Enniscorthy have been the yardstick definitely in the division, but it has been a bit of a nip and tuck battles trying to just differentiate between the two teams earlier on in the season. It was Enniscorthy, of course, who finished the season ahead, and they, of course, took on Skerries at Alcas Park this evening. And they will be delighted to be back, to be getting promoted into Division 2B after a 41 points to 14 victory this afternoon. A result, they're only into the competition as a junior side back in 2020 during the pre-pandemic. And of course, they managed to get the victory this afternoon, 41 points to 14, a late second half performance managing to seal the victory for them. And they will, of course, be into Division 2B. But who has gotten out of 2B? We'll try and get back to Luke if he is there to see what was the result.
Diarmuid, can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, I can hear you, Luke. What was the story at the game you were at this afternoon?
It was an absolutely fantastic game to watch, and it's real late heartbreak that it was for Greystones. Obviously, led for the majority of the season in Division 2B, but it was a late try from Matthew Dwan for Blackrock that sealed the win and that promotion to Division 2A. And it all started quite well for Greystones. They took a 10-0 lead into half-time after a great team try. Ended up being finished off by Conor McAleer, and then 5 points from the boot of Killian Marmion really sent them on their way. And then they extended that lead early on in the second half, and they actually went 20 points to 3 up after an Andrew Lynch try. But just after the 60-minute mark, Michael Douglas was given a sin bin for Greystones, and it really did change how the game was going. And Blackrock didn't run in 2 quick tries through Peter Quirk and O'Loughlin to narrow the scores down again. And then in the final play of the game, Greystones were leading by 3 points, 23 points to 20. And then Blackrock went over in the corner through Matthew Dwan, and it sealed their Division 2A promotion. But it's real heartbreak for Greystones, Diarmuid.
Definitely a lot to dissect coming up next week on the Rugby Show with various results, especially with Queens, who have definitely been the standout team of Division 2A, losing with a last-second misconversion to not see them into Division 1B. Definitely a lot of talking points that we will be covering, of course, next week. But thank you, of course, Luke, for that report from the game between Greystones. Now, I was obviously mentioning the game between Enniscorthy and Skerries. We will try and cross live to Mark Harrington, who was watching the game above at Alcas Park, to get you a full-time report. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Dermot, you hear me okay?
Yeah,
good.
I can hear you.
Very good. So, a very impressive win by Enniscorthy down here. The kickoff was delayed. Skerries had some bus challenges, but good start. We saw the best of Enniscorthy line out and their dangerous midfield. Mariski went over after about 6 minutes to make the score 5-0. Skerries grew back into the game through some good tactical kicking from Paul O'Loughlin and scored 2 penalties from Paul and Ronan Mulcahy. About 5 minutes left in the half. Enniscorthy 13, Nick Doyle received a yellow card for a late hit on Ronan Mulcahy, who had to leave the field for concussion. And the half ended with an Ivan Paul penalty to make the halftime score 8-6 to Enniscorthy. In the second half, Enniscorthy scored early through Angelo Tredisco, and thereafter kind of pulled away. Skerries captain Kevin McGrath pulled one back, 22-14. Had a couple of chances, but started chasing too early, and ultimately a score of 6 tries to 1. Enniscorthy worthy winners and very deserved on the day, with multiple scorers. So, yeah, deserved winners. No complaints from Skerries, and we wish them all the best in 2B.
Perfect, Mark. Thank you for sending us in that report from the action at Alcas Park. Now, we'll just give a brief run through the results as well from the day. That was obviously our last report from a reporter around the different grounds. So if you look at the results, of course, Shannon are up into 1A after their 30 points to 15 win over Naas this afternoon. Buccaneers with a 1-point win over Queen's University. Maybe a bit of a shock there. Be interesting to see the fallback from that game, of course. Blackrock College with a 25-23 win over Greystones, as Luke had said enough, obviously. Enniscorthy with a 27-14 win over Skerries. Those were the different finals. In the relegation playoffs, Ballynahinch won 52-34 on aggregate, so they will remain, of course, up in Division 1A. Banbridge winning 49-17 on aggregate. They will remain in their division. Nenagh Ormond winning 43-30, a big result from Nenagh this afternoon, seeing them remain in Division 2A. Galwegians, Ballina did win 15-3 this afternoon, but Galwegians managing to win 37-34 on aggregate, just about keeping them alive in Division 2B, while Clonmel win 41-34 in aggregate. A disappointing result for them this afternoon, but aggregate thankfully keeping them alive as a senior ranked club in Division 2C for next season. So that will obviously conclude all our reaction from the different grounds this afternoon from all of the AIL games. We will have reports available on the Finalwhistle.ie website. You'll be able to view all of the reports from those games. And like I said, we will be back to you later on this evening for another Around the Grounds from all of the action in the Women's National League. Hoping to tune in later on this evening, as we will have all of our reporters stationed around the country for that one. But until we chat to you again, have a lovely rest of your Saturday, and we'll see you again. Goodbye.